Well, hello again, diecast fans. Got another great little banger here for you. This time we're going to take a look at another one of my perennial favorites, and I'm sure maybe it's one of yours too, the Lincoln Continental Mark V. We looked at some Mark IVs in an earlier video. Now today we're going to look at the car that came right after that one, the Mark V. So I have several representations here over two different manufacturers. We have Matchbox and Auto World. And we're going to start with this beauty right here first, bright red. So this was offered by Matchbox in 1979. That was actually the final year of the Mark V's production. So it's kind of interesting they chose to finally get around to doing a version of this here. This was one of my favorites. I had I had two of them. One I inherited from my brother and the one I bought before. The one I inherited from my brother, I actually drilled it apart and I made it into a navy blue collector series car. I thought that was actually pretty neat. But this is actually a really nicely done model that Matchbox did. You know, this thing is faithful all the way down to the little fender louvers there. You know, they didn't do a glass opera window, but they at least gave it an effort to make an opera window right there. And they actually cast in the very tiny letters that spell out Continental on the deck lid bubble. The little veins on the tail lamps. I mean, they just did a really nice job. Beautiful bright paint, bright red paint. The white top, nice contrast. One oddball thing, I never understood why they did. They decided to depict it with the headlamp doors open. Not sure why they did that. But boy, these were a very popular car. When we were living up in Wyoming, it seemed like every other rancher or cowboy had one of these there driving around on Friday night, man. It was just, good times. Back in the days when an 11 mile per gallon two-door coupe with all the luxury amenities you could ever want was a desirable automobile. And we'll never see the likes of that again. All right. Now, this red version here, that was the only version that we saw here in the U.S. If you lived in Bulgaria, you not only got that version there, there are many, many other versions too. I can't even tell you how many versions of Bulgarian Lincoln Matchboxes there are. And there's many other Bulgarian versions of the other cars too. But Matchbox actually had a factory in Bulgaria, and I'll show you the chassis. It actually says made in Bulgaria on there. When I found out that they made this car in all these versions in Bulgaria, I was like, man, I've got to find one of those. And let me tell you something, people, they are very, very hard to find in this country. And when you do find one, sometimes it's frighteningly expensive. I saw one on eBay. It was an extremely rare, all like a magenta color. Even the top was magenta, with about that shade interior, and it was mint in the box, and the guy wanted like $325 for it, and I said, that is just insanity. Okay, I mean, I'm sorry, I'm a working man with a mortgage and a wife and a lot of responsibilities. I can't be paying that kind of crazy money for a toy car. All right, this one, it was a little pricey, but believe me, it was way under 100, and it was very, very nice. It wasn't mint out of the box or anything like that. It was actually a loose car, but I had to have at least one Bulgarian Matchbox, and here it is. So they, just like I said, many different color versions they had. You can see it right there, made in Bulgaria. That is really cool stuff. You know, most of them had a black top. You know, same details as a red one. It's just, you know, kind of weird how we only got that one version, but over in Bulgaria, they had multiple versions of this car. But yeah, that's one of my most personal favorites. Absolutely love that one. All right, now we're going to move on to the Auto World versions. So I have 6 of these, all 6 versions that came out. They all have opening hoods. However, I was only able to get the hood open on 3 of them because these hoods, they are, the fitment is so close, you just can't get them open. I got these open because I was able to tap them on my knee and get the hood to at least budge, you know, a little bit so I can at least get a fingernail in there. So we're going to look at 3 of them with the hood up and 3 with the hood down. That's the best I can do. But these Auto World ones, they are absolutely fantastic. Very highly detailed. faithful to the original all the way down. I think maybe the opera window is a little big, but at least they actually made a cutout with glass, and they even went so far as to put the little Continental star in there too. They depicted all of them with the very popular and very beautiful turbine spoke wheels. And I found it interesting how they did the first two versions with no vinyl top. Now, that was actually, you could do that. You could specify no vinyl top on the Mark V if you liked. I think, believe it or not, it actually cost more money to do that because there were welds that they had to fill in this area here. But you can see, it's got a very nicely detailed engine bay. I mean, they've even got the air cleaner decked out all the way down to that little oil filter looking thing. That was actually an extra silencer on there. They all have metal chassis. Even the chassis is very detailed. These Mark Vs, they did have these actual cross braces underneath them. You can see the shape of the C6 transmission oil pan there. 9-inch rear. And yes, on the single exhaust cars on the Mark V, they did exit on the passenger side, which I thought was kind of weird. Nice turbine wheels. Nice opera windows. Very nice. And they also did this very lovely blue one. I think they called that crystal blue. These are, by the way, authentic Lincoln colors that they painted these in, by the way. Let you take a nice look at that. That blue one's really pretty. And I like the way that they do, every detail. Veins on the tail lamps. They spell out Continental. It's not cast in like on the Matchbox version. It's more or less like a decal, tampo, whatever you want to call it, that they put on there. Button that up. And then, this one's one of my favorites. I like that color scheme. Trying to remember that name of that color. I think it was dark Cordovan or something like that with the contrasting white top. So if I remember correctly, the first two I just showed you, the ones that have no vinyl top, Auto World depicted them as a 1977 model. I think this one and the cream colored one over there, they're 1979 models. And then the dark green and that gold one are 1978 models. And I want to show you that gold one next because I want you to take a good look at this. This is absolutely just stunning. So you'll notice that's got gold wheels. That's because this is depicting a 1978 Diamond Jubilee Anniversary Edition. And they made this in two colors. This is the Jubilee Gold, it's called. There was also a Diamond Blue version. And these cars were extremely expensive. They cost even more than a regular Mark V. A regular Mark V would set you back about 12 grand. These were like 17, 18,000 bucks. That was getting pretty close to Mercedes-Benz territory. But they had a very special interior, completely different sew pattern that was not available on the other Lincoln Mark Vs. It's not depicted on this car, but there was a vinyl covering on the face of the deck lid bubble. They had their own unique grain on the vinyl top. They had color-keyed turbine spoke wheels. There was also a color-keyed grille on there. Also, these cars had like a bucket seat. Instead of like a split 50-50 bench with the high back seats, these actually had bucket seats in them. And there was a console in there that was lined with leather, and it was also lockable. And you could use it for storing things if you like. They did not put a floor shifter in. That would have been not appropriate for a luxury car, so they kept their column shifter. But they did have a console in there, and it was a very handsome console too. It's not depicted in this car. You can't see it, but they did do the Jubilee Gold interior. Very nice. All the details faithfully represented. It's really nice. And then this is the other 1978 version here. This is like a dark jade green. I do remember they had a luxury group called the Dark Jade, Light Jade. I was kind of hoping they would do that with this one, but no. This one's dark jade inside and out. Very stunning. Nicely done. You can really see on this one where it's kind of a dark color, you can really see the Continental letters pop on that. It's really nice. Another thing I'll point out about these Auto World cars. Now, see, they are true 1/64 scale. These Matchboxes, I'm going to show you this. Okay, it's the same car, Mark V, but look how much smaller the Matchbox is compared to the Auto World, and that's because Matchbox cars are probably more like a 177, 178 scale. They're a little smaller. That's true of Tomica as well, and most of the other, mainline diecasts. But Auto World, they pride themselves on making a diecast car that is the true 1/64 scale. So that's kind of striking, that difference between those two. And I'm hoping they'll come out with some new versions of these too, because it'd be nice to see some that have like those polished wheels, some luxury group versions. It'd be really cool if they did that. But I have to say, I'm really pleased with what they did. This is one of my favorite cars. That's why I collected every version. And then the final one I'll show you is this lovely 1979 all cream colored one. When I first looked at this, I thought maybe it was depicting a luxury group car, because they did have a cream and gold luxury group Mark V, but this one doesn't have any gold accents on. This is the strictly cream inside now. Still a very nice car. Auto World they have very high quality. I mean, unlike my brother and I were growing up with the yacht meetings, we have to pull them off the rack and root through them, trying to find a good one. Auto World, you just run in the store, pick them off, and go. Every one of them is pretty much perfect. No defects, no problems. All right, so there you have it. That's all of my Lincoln Mark V's I've got in my collection, at least in this size. I've got a big one I'm going to show you, but that's going to get its own video by itself, because that's got lots of nice details. And it won't fit on this turntable because it's a big, giant 1/18 scale. But I hope you enjoyed this. Let me know if you had a Mark V or know someone that did. Tell me about your diecast versions you may have had. And we'll show you it again next time. Take care.